Hey, everybody. We are live again on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and probably somewhere else that we don't know about. Welcome. We've got some really powerful Utah educators here with us today, and we're going to talk about how to make a quick transition into remote learning. And I have my dear friend from Instructure and Canvas, Jody Saylor, who's going to run this session. So, Jody, welcome. You're all ready to roll. Good luck with Danny and Spencer. Be nice to them.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. I'll try my hardest. Yeah, so as Mark mentioned, we are here to talk a little bit about the move from in-class learning to remote learning using Canvas. We are pleased to have Danny Sloan from the UEN joining us. Danny is part of our UEN PD team who does a ton of training on Canvas and is supporting teachers around the clock, it seems, especially right now with her team at the UEN. We also have Spencer Riehl, who is a math teacher from West Hills Middle School and Jordan School District. And we've asked him to join us to talk a little bit about how he made this quick transition, along with his team, how they've collaborated to take this in-class learning online to do remote learning with their students, how they've structured their course to keep it a meaningful structure so that student learning can continue to happen in such an unprecedented time. So with that, Danny, do you want to share anything else about UEN PD or
No, right now you covered it. Right now we're just doing whatever we can to support teachers in their move to online instruction.
Awesome. So Spencer, I'm going to go ahead and just let you take it away then. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how your team is collaborating, what they've done to what you've all done to move to this remote learning model that you're now in, and also how you structured your courses.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. Before I actually start saying what I've learned in the last 3 weeks, I think it's important to point out that I kind of feel like I have no idea what I'm doing. I was not an active user of Canvas before this whole thing. And so this transition has been quite the learning experience for me and for many of my students as well. But I have 2 other 7th grade math teachers, and then I have 5 or 6 other math teachers in my school who've all been, we meet regularly, we talk about issues we've been having on Canvas, so that's been really useful. So yeah, I think today I was just going to go through a couple things. The first thing is how we collaborate, just the logistics of that on Canvas, and then just discussing how we've been structuring the class on Canvas. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now so you can see what kinds of things we've been getting up to. So once I've done, there we go. So what you're seeing right now is the sandbox that Canvas provides. And I have not actually gotten my school district to set up a sandbox for me, but my coworker, Ms. McCann, she added us, as myself and the other 7th grade math teacher, added us as teachers to her sandbox. And so we actually have this central sandbox that we can all sort of play in and work in and improve things and change things. So this has been really useful to us, just in terms of having this one place where all the courses are made. One of the important things we think about a lot in our team is about collaboration and providing an equitable opportunity for all students in our normal classrooms. So we're using very similar or the same assignments, we're using the same assessments, and so we're trying to transition that into this online world as well by using this sandbox mode. So that's the important thing, is just having a central place that we can all work from. The second thing,
can I ask you, are you all putting in for every module each week, or are you taking turns? How do you decide that?
So it's been, I would say that I was probably the person who took to this the easiest of the 3 of us. Mm-hmm. And so initially I was doing a lot of the sort of building out of the coursework, but we were all sitting in a Google Hangout and talking about what kinds of things we wanted to be there. As the first couple of days progressed, then it was more, okay, well, you start building something for the 3rd and 4th day, I'll work on the first and 2nd day, and you can look over our shoulder and make sure that we're all doing the right thing. So initially, I would say I was doing quite a bit of it, but as time has gone on, I've been able to, I think it's been much more evenly shared between the 3 of us. So that's been really good.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like how you're all kind of taking a piece to lighten the load.
Yeah, it's been a lot easier given that there are three of us than if it was just me plugging away in the darkness. So the second thing I kind of want to show you guys is how we've actually structured the class. So some of this has come straight from the district. So the Jordan School District provided a course template that we downloaded, which had this home page that we then customized. And so I've just said, I'm available for contact. The course structure is I'm going to rely heavily on these modules. And there's my contact information and a fun picture that seems relevant in these times. But as I've structured the course, we've been using these modules to go over to kind of structure the days. And we've been very aware that a lot of students don't have infinite time. They don't have infinite technical ability. So we've been trying to dial this back to sort of 3-ish assignments per week, and or 3 modules anyway. The idea being a module doesn't take more than a half hour. We may be way off with that, but that's the idea. So as we're using these modules, it allows for a good structure that we might have had in class. So this first page that is in each of these modules gives sort of learning objectives. I can do these statements, things that they need to be aware of by the end. It also is helpful for the state standards, give an idea about how much time each task should take, and then sort of a success criteria where we can say at the end, these are the kinds of things that we want you to have done. So yeah, this sort of module landing page has been really useful. And then as we go through, we usually have some kind of warm-up quiz or quiz from about the day before, and that allows us to check them as they go, check for understanding. Then there's some kind of an assignment, and then finally, well, here we called it a test, but it's really just another quiz, and it's just to see if they did actually learn anything based on that assignment. So this module layout, I think, has been really useful for a lot of students, mostly because I can provide all the context and information around an assignment rather than just, here's a worksheet, go ahead. Are there any questions you guys have about that?
Yeah, I love the overview page. I think that is super helpful. And you were saying that students don't have infinite time right now. And I really appreciate that as a parent, because parents also don't have infinite patience. And I think that overview page, super useful. I really like that you guys have done that.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that overview page as well. One thing that I think is so great that you've done is that time frame, letting students know this should take you about 30 minutes or whatever it is. That is super helpful for those of us that, again, like Danny said, are just getting used to this remote learning. We have multiple children at home. We're also trying to work from home. And so trying to stagger those schedules and making sure that we're able to support our children as they're doing this work, but also that we know what we need to check in on. Is super helpful. One other thing, Spencer, that I know you've done in some of your modules is you've added a video to just show the student step by step, here's how you solve these problems and do different things. Can you tell us just a little bit about those videos and how much time it's taking you? Are you worried about, making it this perfect video, or are you really just having it as if it's classroom instruction live, here you are? And how you're accommodating that use case, as well as how you're recording those videos.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a case of lots of the stuff I'm doing on Canvas is a kind of substitute for what we do in class, and the videos are a kind of substitute for the kinds of instruction that I would do in class. Obviously, it's impossible to perfectly replicate that, but these videos I think are semi-useful to some students. So in this second module, after we'd done some vocabulary stuff at the beginning, I've got a video of me actually walking us through the concepts that we need to know and some practice questions, and then some sort of independent questions. And that's been pretty easy for me to do. The school has provided me with an iPad from the beginning of the year, and that's been a really important teaching tool that I use in class. So I think the students are pretty familiar with seeing me standing in class, working stuff up that's being projected up on the board. And so I think this is sort of a very similar extension of that. It hasn't been too hard because the iPad provides a screen recording feature that is just incredibly easy to use. And yeah, I think the videos take 5 to 10 minutes to think about and plan out, and I try and keep them really short, so somewhere between 3 and 8 minutes to actually record them, and then it takes probably another 5 or 10 minutes to actually upload it and push it out to the Google Drive, and then just adding a link to the Canvas page here.
Awesome. Thank you.
And yeah, I think as we go forward into a lot of new material over the next month, perhaps more, those videos will be more important. And I'm going to start thinking a little bit harder about even shorter videos that can be interspersed throughout, rather than one 8-minute video, perhaps 3 or 4 2 or 3 minute videos just over a week. I think those would be really useful.
That's a great idea. And I also have to say, like, as one of your the students' teachers, you become one of their people, and hearing your voice is definitely reassuring to them. But also keeping into account that, yeah, our attention span online is quite a bit shorter than it is in person. So even 8 minutes is short and great, but even shorter, I think you'll get a lot of watches.
Yep. Yeah, it's been it's definitely been a learning experience. I keep coming back to that for everybody involved.
So Spencer, with that in mind too, are you doing anything to try to help break up? I mean, I know you're trying to do these short, quick bursts is what I feel like these modules really are for your students. But are you doing anything more to encourage them to get up and walk around? That's a little bit harder in a math class maybe than obviously a PE class. But do you have any assignments or anything that you've done that have encouraged that movement throughout the day that they're possibly not getting now that they're not running to one class to the next or whatever in a regular school?
Yeah, we've been thinking about that. Perhaps we'll think about it more as time goes by. This module that I just opened up on my screen was our first attempt at assignments for a subject. And our idea was we'll make a module for a topic, and the assignments in it, everything will just be, we'll set the due dates to be kind of staggered out, which is a great idea. But I think if a student opens this module, their brain just explodes because it's too much. But speaking of assignments that students can access and just get up and walk around, this one was pretty easy because it's a geometry related assignment. And so the idea here was that they would go outside or just find something in their house, and they would measure the circumference. And once they found the circumference, they can use the formula for circumference to calculate what the diameter should be. Then they would actually measure the diameter and compare their estimate to their measurement. And I got a lot of submissions from students where they were saying, I went out to the circle in front of my house and I took 120 steps to go around the circle. And I think that was pretty nice to see. A lot of students just picked a can or a jar from the kitchen or something, but either way, that got them up and going. You're absolutely right that being able to spread out assignments or to spread out the learning away from just the desk is something that we probably need to do a better job of. But this was one of our early attempts.
Yeah, even just that one assignment, I think it's great that it's not just all sitting at the computer and clicking buttons, that they have to go out and maybe take a picture of something that they're doing or whatever it looks like. I think that's a great idea. You're doing awesome, Spencer.
Well, thank you. So I guess the final thing that I want to talk about is using these class announcements. So as far as I understand, and I may be very wrong on this, as far as I understand, these announcements, when I post them, they actually show up on the students' to-do list to click on them and view them. I certainly have not gotten 100% participation in these. In fact, if you look at this screen that I've just shared right now, this is an announcement from April 1st, and I still only have 46 comment replies on it, and I have about 85 students. So, I'm still only getting 50-ish% participation, but I think it's, you got to try it, even if you know you're not going to reach everybody. And on this announcement, all I said was post a GIF or a picture that you really are feeling right now. I set some expectations for what they should post, and then I said, click on the modules on the left side of my class. Now that I've got them on this assignment page or announcement page, I know that they will be in my course. and then they can just go click on the modules. So, and I think this is a really important thing in terms of keeping that student relationship. So I started with a GIF of a raccoon washing his hands because that's pretty pertinent right now. But I had students who posted, you know, I think this is pretty pertinent for a lot of students right now where they're just kind of feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. And so this student, you know, posted this, and I think that makes a lot of sense right now. So I think using these announcements has been really useful in terms of just having some way of just touching base with many students.
Yeah, I think that goes back to what Danny was saying with students being able to hear your voice. They're not hearing your voice maybe in this, but they're hearing your voice as they read how you made this announcement.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty much my overview of how I've structured things. It kind of comes down to a handful of concepts. The first one is using these announcements to touch base, to give just a daily little, just read this, I'm alive, you're alive, we're all here together. This is what I'm hoping you'll do today. In fact, I'm having on another announcement, I'm having a competition where students will vote off states in America, and we'll see which the last state is. And so I've gotten a lot of participation in that. And so just little fun things like that. The second thing is creating these modules so that they're manageable in size. I mean, again, that first module we made was huge, and I think it was broken down according to the due dates, but it was still just a lot of information. And having these videos that I make, and then finally having daily conferences. We came into this whole experiment thinking, can we do this asynchronously, or does it need to be synchronous? Should I expect a time when all my students are going to hop into a video chat? And I think that's just not a workable solution. I think for a lot of students, internet access is hard to come by, or computer access is hard to come by. Many students might be sharing the same computer. And so I've had daily conferences at a specific time. So you can see these are previous ones. And this week I said that I was going to give it a topic rather than just a random drop-in. But I've gotten okay feedback on these conferences. On Friday, I had maybe 15 or 20 in both my honors section and my regular section. So I was not getting amazing participation, but I think for those students who wanted to check in, it was really useful for them. So that's basically how I'm structuring things.
Yeah, I was just going to say, a lot of times just knowing that it's an option is really great for students. And I think throughout your whole course, you can see kind of the evolution of what you started at and decided, oh, nope, this is not what's best for students. We need to do more bite-sized modules. I think you've really done a lot in keeping your students' interests at heart.
Yeah, and I think one of the big learning things for us was when we started creating that first module on circles, we set pretty strict requirements for you must do this, and then you must do this, and then you must do this, and for this quiz you must get a 3 out of a 4 to continue on. That has proven to be quite a difficult thing because students will run out of attempts on a quiz, and you know, I teach 7th grade, they're 12 and 13 years old. They might not be the most self-starter independent learner ever, and so I get a lot of just like they'll work through things, they'll get to a point where it's quite difficult and they don't score the requisite grade, and then they stop because it's hard, or then they stop because they've been locked out because they have to get a 3 out of a 4. So understanding those requirements as they work through these modules, keeping the modules short, keeping the videos short, I think has been useful, and that learning process is certainly going to continue.
I love that. I love everything that you're doing in your course. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic that you're keeping that community moving as best you can, which is absolutely paramount, I think, for our students right now who are going through really a crisis and not knowing what to do from day to day sometimes, or starting to feel stir crazy and bored and unsure of what tomorrow brings. But also just, you know, the fact that you are taking it in these tiny chunks to help continue that learning moving, but also being realistic of the situation that students are dealing with every day is really fantastic. So kudos to you and the 7th grade math team.
There was one thing.
How you're collaborating. That is,
yeah,
that is awesome.
It's every day pretty much. Every now and again we won't meet because we think we've got everything figured out for the week. But for example, this last week we met via Google Hangouts, just a video chat between the three of us. We met every day except for Thursday, I think, and then Friday we had a whole math department meeting. So Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday we all met at about 9 o'clock in the morning, just to discuss how things were going, if there was any problems we were making. And this is where a lot of that discussion has come from in terms of the progression requirements and what instruction we're providing to them. The other thing I would add is I was just on the internet and I saw somebody say, you're not working from home, you're living through a crisis and you're trying to get work done at home. And those are very different things. And so just having that in mind in terms of, there's lots of decisions we make as teachers where there's sort of two options. One option is let's hold them to a higher standard. The other option is let's just let it slide, or let's let it slip. And I don't want to be an advocate for letting standards slip. I think there's still an expectation that students log in, attempt things. But there's lots of little things we can do to make it easier that in an ideal world, we would have had a week before the school shut down to train them in how to navigate this. But this is not the perfect world where that happens. So yeah, just trying to make things as easy to access as possible is what we're trying to focus on.
Absolutely. Well, I think you're doing a fantastic job. I love to hear that you guys are collaborating so often. I think Danny and I are former educators in the traditional sense, and I think all of us are tied to our teams, and we need that collaboration just as much as our students need to see us. So I love that you work.
Yeah, and a lot of great ideas for other teachers on things that they could do in Canvas that they might not have thought of. So thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Spencer, during your spring break. We really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy now some time off and can recoup. And we'll be in touch again, I'm sure, to see how things are going.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Spencer.